Have you heard the name Max Stanford Jr. or perhaps Dr. Ahmad Muhammad? This man is exceedingly important, both to the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and to the historical movement of Black liberation. He is the person we're talking about in this episode, and we're getting started right now.
The greatest injustice is done, and my people is done by the way of infection. Killing us slowly, erasing our history, death by the way of deception. God, do you know? God, do you know what you are? God, do you know what you are? Goddess, do you know? Goddess, do you know what you are? Goddess, do you know what you are? God, do you know?
Maxwell Curtis Stanford Jr., known since 1970 as Muhammad Ahmad, is a civil rights activist and was a founder of the Revolutionary Action Movement known as RAM, a Black Power organization active during the 1960s. Born on July 31st, 1941 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he graduated from West Philadelphia High School and attended Central State College in Wilberforce, Ohio from 1960 to 1962. Stanford left college after founding RAM in the summer of 1962. The Revolutionary Action Movement, or RAM, was a Black nationalist student group with a philosophy that was inspired by the self-defense revolutionary doctrines of Robert F. Williams. Williams, a former head of the Monroe, North Carolina NAACP, believed in fighting the Ku Klux Klan directly, meeting violence with violence. Inspired by Williams' actions, a group of college students in Wilberforce created an organization they dubbed Challenge. The group's leader, Donald Freeman, hoped to create a force with the nationalist energy of the Nation of Islam and the direct tactics of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, known as SNCC. In the spring of 1962, members elected to dissolve Group Challenge, and Freeman, Stanford, and a sister named Wanda Marshall established the Revolutionary Action Movement. Marshall and Stanford met Malcolm X in Harlem in November of 1962, and Brother Malcolm would join the organization before he left for his famed trip to Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 1964. RAM's philosophy combined elements of Black nationalism, Marxism, and Third World internationalism. With RAM, Stanford began promoting selective patronage, what we might call a form of boycott, to force businesses to employ more Black workers. In 1963, Stanford was arrested while part of a group protesting the construction of the Strawberry Mansion Junior High School in Philadelphia. RAM charged that Black construction workers were not allowed jobs on the project despite its location in the Black community. Between 64 and 68, RAM's attempt to politicize Black Philadelphia drew the attention of the FBI. In 1966, Stanford and 15 other RAM members were arrested in New York City on charges and allegations that they were conspiring to assassinate NAACP leader Roy Wilkins and Urban League leader Whitney Young. Stanford was acquitted on the charges, and he promptly returned to Philadelphia to establish the Black Guard, a youth and self-defense wing of the Revolutionary Action Movement. In 1967, Philadelphia police and the FBI began a campaign of surveillance of RAM, claiming an informant told them the group intended to start a riot, an obvious lie. Police arrested Stanford on July 26, 1967, and 35 more RAM activists over the next month. In other words, they began harassing the organization. In 1968, Stanford dissolved RAM, and by 1969, its members joined other Black Power revolutionary nationalist organizations. In 1970, Stanford converted to the religion of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ahmad. He returned to college, finished his bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts in 1976, and he got his Master of Arts degree from Atlanta University in Georgia in 1986. His master's thesis was The Revolutionary Action Movement, a case study of an urban revolutionary movement in Western capitalist society. Ahmad gained his PhD from Union Institute and University in 1992. Among the most important of Stanford's contributions were his assistance to Amiri Baraka and the Newark, New Jersey movement, his support for members of the Black Liberation Army and Assata Shakur, and his encouragement of the League of Revolutionary Black Workers in Detroit. He was influential in efforts to encourage Robert F. Williams to assume a nationally prominent leadership role upon Williams' return from exile in China. He also convinced, as a young man, Brother Malcolm to become a member of the Revolutionary Action Movement.
Malcolm and I agreed that RAM would be the underground cadre organization and that the OAU would be the public front, and that brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa on his first trip, see, because his trips were also to raise funds, said that, well, you know, so many organizations, this CORE, the NAACP, SNCC, SCLC, we don't know who, to give money to. So that create a united front, we will give money to the united front, all right? So something that Dr. King was putting together before his untimely death, and that was the concept behind the Organization of Afro-American Unity, was that it would be the broad united front that could receive international support and interact with as representatives of African Americans to the international community.
Stanford helped found the African Liberation Support Committee and promoted the concept of reparations to descendants of American slavery. He established the African People's Party in the early 1970s in an effort to keep the flame of revolutionary nationalism alive. Muhammad Ahmad, a.k.a. Max Stanford, a true soldier and warrior for his people, an elder we must study and emulate.